I'm still getting adjusted to you two guys. You haven't changed that much.
I'm just enjoying saying hello. It's so great to see you.
Dick, we've really missed having you at NISCA. You always added so much, you and Sylvia. We always talk about you. And I always tell the story about how you helped me get started. Uh,
Yeah, that's what year was that? Just so was I at Lincoln? My first job was at Lincoln High School for 7 years, and then I went to Wilson. I think I was at Wilson by the time you contacted me.
yes, you were. I was reading every article you wrote in swimming technique, and I thought if there's one guy that can teach me about high school swimming, this is the guy. So I dashed off that letter with all those. I've told Chuck this, and I've mentioned it to you many times, with all those questions, and I got no response, no response, no response. And then about 2 or 3 weeks later, because it probably took you that long to answer all of them, I got this thick envelope with with all of the questions answered in your own handwriting. And I'll tell you what, that was such a boost to me. I felt like I was in on something very special, and I was. I still am very appreciative for your help getting me started in my career. And that year was, I think when I got in touch with you, it was 1974 or 75.
Yeah, yeah. I was trying to think of the year that we did the high school rules. They used to just have the college rule book, and then we had a group of guys. Dave Robertson was one of them, and myself and about 4 or 5 other guys that were the committee to, and that's where we changed the 400 to a 500.
Yeah, I
And
think that was 70 or 72, somewhere around there.
someplace in there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was swimming the 400 in my senior year of high school, which was 1971. So thank you for waiting a little bit longer because I couldn't have gone that other 100 yards. I was bad.
The whole thing is that the businesses they really depend on how much you care, not how much you know. And I guess a lot of that, I don't know if you can actually get it down to where you can explain it pencil and paper. But here's what I think is necessary is that uh, well, in the high school teams, it's pretty easy because you've got a relatively much smaller team than most club teams. But so much depends on setting objectives right from the first day you have a practice. In other words, if you think you can win the state championship and believe you can win the state championship, you let them know, and you let them know it's going to be dependent on each and every one of you guys to set goals for yourself that are going to be much higher than anything you've operated at up to this point. So I think in both club and the high school, developing a sense of confidence that in what you say could happen. Because if you can get a person to believe in you and in what they're doing, that's that's paramount. You've got to have that, and so every season I started with a program and telling them what I do to think we can do and then I tried to get them in to realizing they have responsibilities, and once they set goals and they're going to be responsible for whatever effort is going to be necessary to reach those goals. So I think part of it in developing a relationship seems to be in having them establish some confidence in what you have to say that makes sense. It's for real. If they're going, if you tell them we're going to win a state championship, or we can win a state championship if this, and this occurs, and what they can do as individuals, once they start to believe that stuff, that's the main thing. If you tell them a bunch of stuff that's not going to happen, and a bunch of things they can't do and aren't going to attain, the confidence isn't going to be there, and they're not going to develop. I don't know if that's what you call a relationship or not, but I felt that I had to be honest with the kids, and I like them to have a part in the say of what is going to happen in their training. I used to have in a high school group as many as 5 different workout groups. Sometimes only 3, but most of the time up to 5. And I would talk it over with a kid, what we're going to do in this particular workout group, and where do you fit in? How do you feel about it? And so they always try to have them feel like they're part of the planning.
Your responsibilities included high school coach, club coach, aquatics director, and you have a family. Were those relationships with your boys and your team pretty much there on the pool deck at practice? In other words, I don't know where you fit in the goal meetings. I don't know where you fit in the let's sit and talk times, because it seemed like you were going all day long and you were teaching school at the same time.
That's correct. I also trained the swimming instructors in the summer program and in the night program that we had at the high schools, and the lifeguards. So I was working most hour of the day, but my kids got into swim team pretty young, but I've been coaching quite a few years by the time that happened. So they were there, and they all four of our children swam competitively. So it wasn't a case of not seeing them. They were there in maybe not with me in the younger ages, but they were there with another coach. So I wish I could tell you what it just seemed to be something they had to do to make a living at the time. I didn't know that it was a choice. Later on, most of the coaches strictly coached. Unless they were high school teachers, they could have been teaching and coaching. I'm not sure if I'm hopeful that I didn't shortchange my kids, but at the same time, my wife loved the whole program and was super supportive. I was just so lucky to have a partner that really was encouraging. She would never. Some people, I actually heard a guy tell me that he divorced his wife because she was holding him back as a coach. I thought that was ridiculous. And I was convinced that if we get into the program, if we go ahead and just start doing some real training, that we're going to win. And by the second year, I'd say the first year I was encouraged. The second year I thought we could win, and we did. It was fairly quick. With the club, I started the club. We were at the bottom of every swim meet, and the Tacoma Swim Club. And I was encouraged right from the start. I don't say that I remember one of the parents said to me that I really feel sorry for you, coach. You've got such a poor team. And I said, don't feel sorry for me. It's not going to be like this for very long. And that was fairly true. Some of the kids came on real good. We had some talent. in Kay Hall, which never having produced a national level swimmer, uh, she was being recruited mostly through parent groups to go to California and swim for, well, actually, it was Arden Hills Swim Club. One of the other mothers of the Tacoma YMCA had taken her child down there to swim, and she was talking to Kay Hall's mother. Kay, her mom, I coached her older brothers in high school and club, so I knew the family well. And she said, we can't afford to go down and send her down there. And I said very confidently and probably stupidly, I said, I won't let you down. But nevertheless, it worked out real well.
It did work out real well. She won the Olympic gold medal and two gold medals in 1968. Did she win both backstrokes? I know she won the 100 backstroke, right?
She got third at the 200 back,
But
and she was first at the 100 back.
And then won the medley relay.
And Chuck, you missed her for your greatest comebacks because I was going to tell you, but the problem was you stopped writing that article. I think it was in Swimming World. But anyway, Kay had never beaten Lane Tanner, and Lane Tanner had beaten her, according to her mother, 36 times previously. Lane was from Vancouver, Canada. It's about a 3-hour drive, 3.5-hour drive from Tacoma. And so we swam against them frequently. And then even in the Pan American Games, the year before the Olympics, Elaine beat her by big margin. And Kay was second to her in that. So when she did win at the Olympic Games, it was the first time in 36 meetings that she'd ever beaten Elaine. So it was a good one.
And you've said you think persistence is the number one quality in a successful swimmer. Was that it for Kay Hall? How did you get her to keep believing? Or that's probably not said fairly. What helped her to keep believing she could win after getting beat that many times?
Yeah. Well, she also could lose a few races locally too, occasionally, but not usually in the backstroke. The big thing with her is when she trained with our high school boys team. The girls didn't have a team at the time she was swimming. They started that several years later, about 5 years later. And it was obvious she had a lot of talent. For example, we tried to build her confidence. So I took her to major meets, Santa Clara, the big one they had in Vancouver, Canada. I tried to take her to as many of the top competition we could get to, short of the nationals. And the other point is to build her confidence. We had a time trial. At that time you could do it by having a designated number of timers and everything. At one of our high school boys' meets, it was a Ram Relays, I think is the one we put her in, with one idea in mind. She's going for the American record. At that time, nobody had broken a minute for a 100-yard backstroke, and she went I can't remember if it was a 58 or 59 in that meet. But the way to prepare her for that, so she knew she was going to do it, at the end of workout, not every night, but most every night, we'd take a 100-yard time trial at the end of the training. And we had a guy in the bleachers who had a stopwatch. At exactly at 1 minute, he'd bring a cowbell, and Kay would stop. And she started out getting to the backstroke flags, and she went beyond that. When she got to where she only had to take another stroke to hit the wall, that's when I said, let's go for the record. And in fact, I was talking to her just a couple months ago, And I said, you knew you were going to break that record after we did all that stuff and then what happened in practice. Yeah, I knew it. And I knew it. But we
Yeah.
didn't put her in a situation until we were certain that she could do it. That's what she did there. There was a lot of things we did on the long course because the Olympic trials were in a open pool. It's Los Angeles Coliseum, and she had a habit of swimming on the lane lines and breaking strokes sometime even in races. So we stretched a rope over the center of her lane in our local pool, our little pool, and that was so she could follow that rope constantly in practice. So she really got the feel of staying in the center of her lane. But the Olympics were in an indoor pool. She wasn't going to have any problem. But she had to get through the trials. So those are all little things we did to boost her confidence. And at the Olympics, she didn't swim well. She was the third backstroker in the 400 meter medley relay. A lot of people don't know that, but she was the third. Elaine Tanner beat her, the Australian beat her, and she was really concerned. And Sherp Chavor, she asked her if it's okay if coach comes and just works to be regular. She had a week. After that, she had actually 1 week. So we just said, hey, look, you're tired. We just we rested her. She went instead of two workouts, going to the pool. She took a nap through the afternoon. She went to the pool. We swam maybe. We didn't swim. I don't think we swam without 1,200 yards, maybe 1,200 meters, for about a week. And she was a different kid when the finals of the 100 back happened. But those are all little steps about developing confidence. I guess developing a relationship. I don't know.
I got to know how did she do leading off the relay compared to those other two girls?
She was third, and she had 107.6 for her time. She was heartbroken on that, and she totally agreed with me what we're going to do. The fastest she swam for the 6 or 7 days we had was a start and the breakout, because we convinced that she was the fastest. She could get out in front. We knew that, and she knew that. She had the speed. They didn't have a 50-meter back at that time, but if they had it, she'd been a dynamite because she has good start, fantastic breakout to get the momentum going. And she swam a 1:0, whatever it was, a 1:06.1 or something like that. She was a second and a half faster 6 days later.
Oh,
It doesn't.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's that's a great story. Coach Abbott, go.
Dick, good coaching involves asking better questions, not just giving better answers. In your career, in the starting days, do you remember or can you share some of the questions that you asked of your colleagues or your contemporaries that were helpful to you, much the same as I ask questions of you?
Yeah, I can still remember. I don't have them written down, but someplace I did. Every time I get, well, of course, a coaches clinic, because after you get a chance to know some of the other coaches and talk to them about what they're doing and what the type of training and that sort of thing. And I remember one nationals, short course nationals. It was at Pullman Warston, 1971, I think. Dan, yeah, you swam in that. Anyway, we swam lousy the first day, and I'm trying to help kids get past it. And pretty soon I realized that I better shut up and just back off. By the second day, I left the kids alone and I went to coaches. And I thought that's probably the worst time to talk to them was at a national championship on the deck during their warm-ups and stuff. But amazing. These guys, every one of them, some of them said that I'll tell you, but I don't want you to share it with anybody. And I asked him how they tapered, what was their major training, how long, and everything else that I could think of right there in the deck, and I wrote them all down and cataloged it, and sent each of the coaches that did it. I think it was, I can't remember the number now, but there might have been 11 or 12, and they were considered the top coaches around at the time. Not one of them told me get lost. Yeah, that was a terrible time to do it, but it happened. So I asked coaches. I wasn't afraid to talk to coaches about that things and to share anything I was doing, but that was small potatoes compared to being able to talk to them. And I also went to swimmers that were at the top. And I remember talking to swimmers about saying, what effect did your parents have on your success? An amazing story is that because that was a good question, and I learned a lot. And these were national championships champions that I was talking to. It gave me some chance to write articles on about parent involvement.
Was the answer about parents that it was unconditional support?
Unconditional support. That was the whole thing. They knew within I had parent meetings every year, and I tried to communicate with it. First of all, I told them everything we're going to do, all the swimmings we're going to go to, and what time of year, what the vacation, what we wanted to do, Christmas and all the other vacation periods. So they knew months in advance that they're not going to take a vacation during that particular time of year, or go skiing or whatever is going to interfere with the training. So I think they have to know that. But I try to let them know that they know how you feel about any race, just glancing at you, just how you look at them, or how the expression on your face and that sort of thing. And it's pretty tough, but they need to know that has a major effect. And the ones that said that just was great. Mom said I was great no matter what I did, and every time around. And I thought that was pretty impressive. And that my wife did. She absolutely was totally unjudgmental. She just simply said, "Yeah, you were fantastic. I could go over a race with a kid." I didn't ever try to. I didn't believe you could criticize the individual or the competitor, but you can criticize or point out what you could do in a certain situation.
In the performance.
Performance. It's a performance that you evaluate or criticize, but you don't want anybody to feel that they were lousy.
Yeah. Was there ever something another coach said to you that really stuck with you, that really helped you as a young coach?
Well, I think it was accumulation. I can't think of anything. Maybe a week from now or an hour from now, I might think of something. But I think the best thing, I think it might have been George Haynes, but I can't remember. George, I got to be pretty close friends with George Haynes. I thought he was a exceptional guy. Got a pretty close friends with Doc Constable too. Doc would sometimes we'd have a great state meet or great swim individual, and Doc would call me and ask me what I did. I thought, wow, he asked me what I did in preparation. That doesn't make it to me. It wouldn't make sense. But of course, I did. We talked about it and stuff. And it was that kind of guy. But I think it was George that said, "Hey, you're never going to know what you're never going to know it all. There's no way. Don't get satisfied. I've seen a lot of coaches that positively, I thought, got satisfied. That was another thing. I think it was an Australian coach, Percy Carruthers. I think the track coach.
Uh-huh.
He says to be satisfied is to be finished.
Mm.
So that was what that was a really a major, because I try to explain that to my swimmers, that to be satisfied is to be finished. So I think that's a pretty good point.
Yeah.
We've known a lot of big name coaches, and it seems like there are some big egos out there too. Some people have said that many swim coaches have pretty healthy egos in the sense that they're large egos. Would you agree or disagree with that?
I don't know how to define ego. I guess I was going to look it up in a dictionary. I didn't take time. Uh, I would say yes and no. Some guys, where I thought the Eagles entered into it, when coaches maneuvered or made decisions and stuff that were for their own personal gain. So some coaches were might make a move to do something that would benefit them more than the swimmer, whether it was an entry to another job, better job. If that happened, but some of the best coaches I did, their ego in wanting to win. I think from that standpoint, they probably had an ego. But John Urbanchek, North Thornton, George Haynes, I don't. To me, those guys didn't have an ego. They were very practical, and just, they're the best. I guess I can't answer that question very well.
Over the course of your career, how do you see, obviously things change. How do you see the evolution of your approach to training over the course of your 50 something years? I can remember where people would say that a big practice, a tough practice back in the early 50s or mid 50s was 3,000 yards. So obviously training has evolved tremendously since then. Can you recall how your approach to training has evolved?
It's kind of back to that 3,000 yards. I talked to just the other day, John Moffat and his wife, Susan Lint. That was her maiden name. Susan was a swimmer for Tacoma Swim Club through her career. And then she went to Stanford, swam at Stanford, swam in the Nationals, and was a place winner for Stanford at the restaurant. And anyway, the two came by and had lunch with me, and John said that the workouts he was talking to someone said that most they do is 3,000 in a
Wow.
workout. I don't know who exactly what swimmers and stuff, but he has a pretty good. I think I don't know if he still has that podcast or not, but he has a pretty good open door to what's happening now. Of course, he's close friends to guys like John Neighbor and that group of guys. What was your question?
As you went through your own coaching career, did you
Oh,
change?
it went. Well, first of all, I believe it's technique, or it's true. That was one of the things I learned early on. The better the technique, the chances of being a faster swimmer you have. So I was always a teacher first, coach second. I teach them first and coach them second. Uh, from my standpoint, I always taught. And I tried to devise. I had a technique of all kinds of drills, swimming drills, to correct specific type of what were considered errors in technique or stroke, in trying to get the stroke better. So I basically Dan never changed that. I think I was that way no matter what. But we went to over distance, obviously. Bob Biller, John Tallman, in Seattle. They were the Kellogg's coaches. Uh, they were hitting the heavy mileage, and no matter what I did in mileage, when I got together with Bob Biller a week later or something, he'd always gone further, no matter what. I couldn't beat him in the yardage. So, but I learned something from early on from Dick Jokins. He had a paper by a physiologist, and it was on the specificity of training. And so we started, I thought, incorporated a lot of specific race pace swimming early. And the most success I'd say that I had was utilizing race pace swimming. I did it with a short course swimming. I had a diving pool, 11 2/3 yards across, and we'd have our swimmers swim. At that time that we were used it, we're swimming cross pool. We called it lactic training. I don't know if there was such a word, but it was real short rest. We were doing this long before they were having this race pace type of swimming that they broke it down to. And it was cross. We would time them cross pool, and we knew at what speed they were swimming at that short distance, and sometimes it'd be over and back on it, but with hardly any rest. We would do series at the time, maybe 8 or 10 in a row, and we do maybe 3 or 4 sets of 8 or 10 in a row, and they would all be at a speed faster than they wanted their goal time. And Dan's younger brother Dick, he broke the national high school record, but he never won the state meet to a senior year. But in the senior year, he had to beat a kid from Olympia, and I was convinced the only way to beat him was to break the national high school record, which at that time was about 140. So he trained cross pool all year long. He was used to swimming at that speed because we do it, and you could make it, but push it off, and you've got momentum right to start with and stuff. And then the other time we broke the outspeed. We broke the hundreds down into whatever break we'd have to get the goal time. For example, he went a 48.8. At that time, it was a good time. He went 138.8, and he broke the national high school record. But he ended up with the second fastest 200 ever swum at that time. The college guys started going a little faster after that date at their college meet. But we break the 100 down in 25s or 50s or 25.75, whatever it took. And it started out with 25s. And then we do the same thing with the back half. And when we got to the meet, finally, with the rest and everything, he was able to do it. And not him, not everybody that had their goals were able to attain them.
I'll bet your swimmers could maintain better technique training that way than they would have if it was very endurance based, if it was Tallman stuff. You feel like that was true, that because you were going shorter, you could be more efficient?
If your guys are real tired, your stroke can break down. Yeah, it's not as good. Yeah.
Right.
Coach, I was listening to Chuck list all the different jobs you held when you were at Wilson and probably even before that too. That's an awful lot of time. coaching, we all know, can consume a large portion of your daily hours. Were you able to achieve a good balance between your work and your home life with all that demand placed on your time?
Well, obviously my wife did a lot. That's for sure. I'm forever thankful for her. But I, ne- I never felt like I was not paying attention to my kids or anything. And so it seemed to work out.
And they were all swimming.
They were all swimming. And of course, they went to college on college scholarships. And my daughter did. She decided to stop swimming, and she went to college in 3 years. She 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 took heavy loads all the way. And they were all good students in high school and in college. So good citizens. I assume that things went pretty well.
Was your wife involved with the team at all? Did she do support
Well,
activities in
when the
school as
kids were
well?
swimming, she volunteers as a timer, but she did. And once the kids could stop swimming, she quit timing. Uh, but she didn't get involved in coaching at all, or even she had good sense that way. It would have lost things. So,
Any advice for young coaches about balancing coaching with the rest of their life? We hear all the time these days about mental health, wellness, all that. And then there's the other perspective that coaching is a lifestyle and that you should enjoy being on the pool deck and being at swim meets.
you are up to a point. I think I finally got tired. Well, I finally retired, but I still coached as I was supposed to be an assistant, but I was really just a technical advisor. I was strictly a stroke coach. Uh, Sometimes I would take one stroke and coach that group at the University of Puget Sound because the coach at University of Puget Sound was a former swimmer of mine and just had me come and help out. I did that a lot of years, but I didn't go to any travel meets. I'd go to some local meet, but I stayed away. But eventually, going out to being gone all once my kids were out of swimming for a number of years, going to a swim meet for 11 or 12 hours right each day of a weekend got to be old. I can't say I didn't still do the job and like it, but it got to be a little bit tough. I think as a coach, just have a lot of common sense. Don't take yourself too serious.
Does that mean you can skip a meet once in a while and do something else in your life rather than be at every single swim meet all the time?
Yeah, I couldn't do as much as I'd like to have done, but I played basketball on city championship teams, and eventually I didn't have time for the basketball, but I played slow pitch on some very good teams and uh, for a lot of years. So I think I had my wife and I had good uh, would go out do things. I never once questioned that there was something else uh, that just that was taking a time away from my family, but it could have been.
Well, didn't you? There's stories of you having a boat and piling coaches
Oh, I
and
fished.
coaches on the boat. You're a fisherman?
Yeah, yeah. Every coach that came here for a clinic went fishing with me. Uh, yeah, I had a little 17, then an 18-foot outboard, and there used to be pretty good fishing here, salmon fishing in the Sound, and I fished every year. Crab, Dungeness crab, yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, that was a great relief. Uh, some coaches came here and actually worked as a assistant for the summer for different programs, and they would end up being fishermen too. We'd fish. Practice would get over about 6:30, and we'd go take the boat out for an hour and a half or so and fish. Yeah.
Great.
Coach, careers of in swimming last so long. We see so many kids come through, um, and Chuck mentioned earlier the role of persistence. And we know that one bad practice, one bad race, even one bad season isn't the end. We understand the power of consistency and persistency over brilliance, steady work that you do time after time, day after day, year after year. Um, Sometimes is a whole lot better than relying on a magic workout, the latest flash in the pan practice. But we're seeing a lot of young coaches that really fixate on the immediate, and maybe they don't have the long vision. Can you share your thoughts on how and why the long game matters more than the day to day?
Well, some reporter asked me one time about what seemed to be the reason for our continued success as it was in high school swimming. We had a 24-year undefeated streak. Actually, the 24th year we did lose a meet. And they asked me, and then I said, persistence. We persistently uh, held our program together and ups and downs. And for example, in my last year of high school coaching, we lost a dual meet. First time in 24 years. We had tied one previous to that, but it was the loss. It was a tie. And those kids, I knew they felt terrible. We had a meeting on the deck right after the meet, and we reviewed what our goals were at the start of our season. The first year, I said, I'm the same now as I was before before we lost this meet. It doesn't matter. We set out to do well, do these things at the state championship. Anyways, it seemed to be they seemed to a lot of pressure or whatever just seemed to be lifted. We went on to that state championship and they swam out of their sight. I never would have dreamt that they were good, but they were really good for their ability level. I thought they exceeded a lot of teams that had better swimmers, uh, faster swimmers. Anyway, I think I think an individual has to recognize that it's not the end of everything. In most cases, they're going to be coming back. So persistence is a necessary friend.
And you've also said failure is only failure if you make it failure.
And I said the failure. We didn't call it failure. We call it temporary non-success. And yeah, it was a mouthful. Temporary non-success. The kids, most every team recognized that was one of the things because you learn more losing a race than you ever do winning races. Uh, Opportunity to learn more is there. Yeah, it's temporary non-success.
Yep.
We've
We
heard
all
it,
knew that.
we've heard it said that wisdom is not in chasing every new thing that comes along, but in knowing which things endure and which pass by the wayside. Can you reflect for us on some things that haven't changed in swimming, some that have endured, and some things that we've seen go by the wayside?
one of the things that have really improved is the quality of the swimming pools and the swimming suits and just the clarity of the pool water, uh, wave control, starting blocks that launch you right off the start. It's amazing to me how they not only do they pitch the starting block, but they put a crack type of uh, starting equipment in there, so you can when you leave the blocks, you really leave with total uh, momentum. And we know that once you have that momentum, it's easier to maintain than it is to build from scratch, especially coming off at the middle of a pool or something. Uh, the rules have changed, you know. It's not the same stroke, some of them. Breaststroke is not the same as it once was. What hasn't changed? Every I think what hasn't changed is every kid wants to be recognized. Every kid wants to excel at something, and that no matter what position he is in a race, if he's improving his times, he's excelling. And I think that's a major point. Is the very nature of how these young guys feel about the sport and the team they're in. That hasn't changed. It's they they want to be recognized. I don't think they want to be recognized as bums. I think they all have. You know, when I was a kid, used to read those racial algebra books. I don't know if you ever remember those, but it was always a hero, and well, even the Lone Ranger series and stuff, there was always a hero, and that always stayed with me. So I think that's fundamentally the thing that's the most important thing is still there.
That feeling of achievement from going your best time.
Yeah, I think everybody feels they contributed. I always said your team is only going to be as good as the improvement of the slowest or the least fastest swimmer
Hmm.
on the team. If that swimmer is really improving, he's pushing everybody else up there. So we tried to make that kid feel especially important.
I remember you saying a long time ago, and I have never heard anybody use the term before, invisible training and sleep
Oh,
and nutrition. And that was
right.
evident in just who Dick Hannula is. And your life longevity probably has something to do with that. But that is so important today that
Yeah.
people have latched on to nutrition where I don't remember it being that important 30, 40, 50 years ago.
No, it wasn't. You know, your invisible training covered what you put into your body food wise for energy and rest and sleep. The rest that you get to prepare yourself to recover from one training session to another and to prepare yourself uh, for a peak performance later on. I went through invisible training with all my parents. uh, I said, the one place you could really influence is invisible training because the coaches are there. I'm not there. I can't see what you're eating. I can't. I don't check your sleeping habits. But anyway, uh, it was. I tried to make sure that everybody recognized what it was and how important it was.
Yep.
Coach, last question for you. What would you like coaches to know that we haven't talked about thus far? Anything come to mind? I know we've covered a lot of bases, but what do you think coaches need to know that we haven't talked about? Any secret sauce?
Anything, I guess, is the only thing, anything is possible if you're willing to dream of, dream of it, think of it. I think everybody, no matter where you're at, you can create objectives that are attainable, but are really something a lot better than where you're at. And if you work on those things, then the other things will begin to fall in line.
It seems like from the start in 1983, winning a state championship, through your career, there was success after success. Was there ever an event or situation that was a bit of a fork in the road for you? I read that you were anticipating conflicts with school administrators, with parents, and getting ahead of those and communicating with them so that they would be well informed. Is there anything in life that you face that might be helpful? Well, even if it's not helpful, be curious to know that was difficult that you got through that really helped you continue on your path of success.
Well, I had supportive administrators. I could, at Lincoln High School, they supported me when I dismissed the kid from the team for that season because he didn't meet what was supposed to be our standards that we had. He didn't break rules, he failed on the standards. Sometimes the parents took it pretty far in the cases like that. But it only happened twice in all my years of coaching at high school.
That you felt like you had to let somebody go?
Well, I think it happened three times, but where I had to let somebody go for that season. In other words, everybody has it. If my standards had been a little different, if my what I said would what I said would be the result with if the standards weren't not met by you. For example, smoking, or it was the early days of smoking. Later, with drugs and the liquor was there, always there too. But if they knew that you're going to, if you say that if it happens, you're off the team for this year, in that you cannot compete at whatever meets we have left, but you're not eliminated forever. You're on the team and can be a part of it again after that. Now, if my standards were such that the result, if you failed to meet the standard, in other words, you were out there smoking or something and got turned in, and sometimes it happened right on the school grounds. If I had been a little bit more, maybe at a different stage of my life, said there'd be a penalty, but the penalty isn't going to be that drastic. But what I'm saying is that they knew that if I said it was this, it was going to be that. They saw it. I guess they saw it happen occasionally. I'm not saying this is right. I'm saying what I did. It may have been right to say you're going to not be able to swim in so many meets. But at the time, I wanted people to meet the standards.
You're going back into just starting coaching at Lincoln High School when you're in your 20s. And are you saying
Right.
that the administrators backed you up and that that was pretty important?
Yeah, it was because uh, he, he thought maybe I would end up doing something less drastic. I was, but he supported me. He did say you have to take the kid back. So a lot of administrators might say to you, you have to take the kid back. And, in later years, I saw that kind of stuff happening, but not with me. It didn't happen with me. Yeah,
And that really undermines the confidence in the coach and your credibility with your team and your parents. And
right, right. Yeah, I, looking back, I may have done things differently if at the time. When I look back from now and what's tolerated, but at the time, I was sick of all the guys smoking and drinking in college on the team. And I'd come off a college team where I saw the guys that were coming back out of the service and stuff. They're older guys. But you had that feeling that the team didn't resented it. Kids on the team resented that they were, there was nothing being done to discourage you from openly smoking or drinking. So, I mean, I went into the program right after college with that in mind. That's why I think I was as strict as I was.
did you ever hear from those swimmers that you had difficulty with in those early years? And was it all resolved later on?
Yes. Uh, I have to say I didn't have a lot of difficulty
Yeah.
with some. Sometime I had to explain things a little maybe to a kid. I'll give you a couple examples. I remember, but one kid got kicked off, and he was the captain of the team for smoking. And years later, um, he came back and talked to me and apologized for what happened. He said he knew he did wrong, and we ended up being close friends. We used to work out together and and everything. So I mean, he held nothing against me. I'm trying to think of anybody else. I remember one kid at a workout. I used to different stages of my career. I do different things, but I used to put the workout we're going to do at a whiteboard in a brief meeting before we started the workout. And this one kid says, and they're all there, all the kids. He says, "What are we doing that for?" Something. And my first reaction was okay because I said so. What I said. So I said, "We're doing this because of this, this, and this." And I had a reason for everything I had on the board. And he sat down and he did a great workout. He did. He went full scale at it. And the workout's over. He comes to me and says, Coach, you were right. That was right on all those things. Except myself. But it was funny. You know?
You ever think about, and we need to go, but the highlight or highlights of your coaching career, and how do you top an Olympic gold medal for K Hall? But I'll bet you that's not necessarily the pinnacle of your coaching career. But I don't know. Do you ever think about that, or can you put a few things into that category?
I'd probably say that I thought it was possible again, but because that keeps you going, it keep thinking. Well, a couple more kids made the Olympic team that had a very slim shot at making a team, and from that standpoint, there were some things that happened that I thought were, in retrospect, were probably as good an accomplishment unrecognized for those two kids to make the team as it was for Kay to do what she did. Uh, but I did think about that a little bit, but it didn't bother me. I mean, I was very thankful that for what she did and accomplished.
That one thing that my dad didn't say is that when he kicked that kid off the team, he was probably his best swimmer, and as a consequence, they didn't win a state meet because of this. So,
Oh,
so
really?
it was not only a question of
Oh, that's
following the rules, but it was a big sacrifice in terms of you know, a championship that they would have had. So I think that takes a lot of integrity, and so I just thought I'd share that with you.
Thanks. All right, we'll let you guys go to your day.
It's great seeing you, Dick, and thanks again for 50 years ago helping me get started.
You're still in there. You might put in more time.
Remains to be seen.